Thank you for tuning into the Kilachari Torah Halacha Minute for Monday, the 16th of November. We're talking about covering the challah when making Kiddush on Shabbat. The Sefer here, halachically speaking, says this about mizonot, about cakes, cookies, crackers, and so on. First, let's understand what he's talking about, and then we'll see what halachas he recommends. The idea is that Kiddush should be what the Talmud, what the Halacha calls b'makom suda. You should make kiddush in the same place that you're going to eat your meal. So if you're going to make the kiddush in one place and go somewhere else, so that kiddush really isn't connected to your meal. So you try to make. I mean, it's a standard practice for most of us probably to make kiddush at the Shabbos table. Yeah, it's set. You have chairs around. You have plates and cups and knives and forks and everything's all ready to go for the Shabbat meal. You have challahs there, so you make kiddush. Well, what's even the question? Here's the question. Let's say, for example, in Shul, as we were recently up until March, and hopefully will be again speedily in our days, after davening on Shabbos, we go downstairs to the Davidson Social Hall, if you remember that, and we make kiddush. Now, is that kiddush in the same place as our meal? Sort of and sort of not. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us, depending on how plentiful the kiddush is and how expansive the cholent and other offerings are, we might go home and sit down and wash and make a meal, make a motzi, and eat a meal in honor of Shabbat day. If there are occasions when we have offered hamotzi, sometimes we have a simcha or a big kiddush or Shabbos and shul, something like that. We'll have challahs, so we'll make kiddush, then we'll wash, and then we will eat our Shabbos meal in shul, which is great, wonderful, beautiful. And there you have the same situation at home. You make kiddush, and then you wash your hands and make hamotzi, so you have kiddush in the same place as your meal. You'll recall, perhaps, sometimes we did not wash and make hamotzi and eat a meal and say birkat hamazon afterwards. So our kiddush seems not to be in the same place as our meal. So how are we dealing with that? What we do is we always offer some cake, some crackers, maybe a little herring, who knows, a little chopped liver, if times are good. So even though it's not a full and proper meal, we should still ideally eat, wash and eat challah, because challah really makes a meal on Shabbos at any time of the week. Bread is what constitutes a meal in the eyes of halacha. In any case, we have at least a hefty, hearty, delicious snack. So what do? We make kiddush, and then we have some cakes, some cookies, some crackers, tam-tams, Ritz crackers, whatever it happens to be. We'll make not hamotzi, but we'll say borei minei mizonot, the bracha for cakes and cookies and so on, right after the kiddush, and then we'll have a little herring, maybe a piece of kugel, maybe two pieces of kugel if you're me, maybe a little cholent, and it's a pretty good snack. So we could say that kiddush was connected, if not to a full meal, then to at least a pretty considerable something like a meal in any case. And that's how we connect our kiddush on Shabbos days to what would be a meal on Shabbos. Now, that was the all by way of introduction to the point he makes here. If he says, if you plan to eat mizonot, if you plan to eat cakes, cookies, crackers, and so on at the kiddush, in other words, after you say borei pri hagafen, make the whole kiddush for Shabbos day, the custom seems to be not to cover the mizonos. He says in the name of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Tamei Minhagim Shmiras Shabbos Kehilchasa, and so on. Harav Belsky, Rav Yisrael Belsky, Alav Shalom, says that one should, that's his go-to posik for these contemporary questions, says that you should in fact cover the mazonos if it's placed on the table where Kiddush is recited. We just said yesterday that we try to keep all the food covered to show that it's in honor of Shabbos and so on, and we're making Borei Pri Hagafen, which may be out of place in some situations. So we're mazonos, which is placed on other tables, like a kiddush at the shul, doesn't have to be covered. But if other people, other than the person making kiddush, will be drinking wine at other tables, then the mazonos should be covered on those tables as well. What's the practical example here? Think back to when we used to have, and soon again we will have, please God, a nice Friday night dinner in shul. So maybe one person will make kiddush for everybody. Maybe some people make their own kiddush, but you'll notice that on each separate table we do have the challahs covered. Because people may be drinking wine at each of those tables, which is going to come before the hamotzi or the mazonos, the cake, crackers. So it should be covered on those tables as well. In general, you'll notice that we do make a point here in the shul when we're making kiddush and we're not having bread, we're not having hamotzi, just crackers, cake, and so on. That we do cover that. And since we're on the topic, we take two of those. There you have it. Okay, last few points. We'll finish up this idea tomorrow, and we'll move on to the next thing. In the meantime, have a nice Monday. Have a good day. Remember, today is Erev Rosh Chodesh, so in this afternoon's Mincha, we omit Tachanun, and tonight in Ma'ariv, and also in Birkat Hamazon, if you happen to have a meal and say Birkat Hamazon, we include Ya'aleh v'Yavo for Rosh Chodesh Kislev. This, of course, is a month of light and miracles, so may it be for us. Lots of light, lots of miracles. Chodesh Tov.